Good afternoon, Cemep colleagues. My name is Ronald Piers. I am part of the European Commission in DG Energy in the team dealing with products, eco-design and energy labeling, and I am in charge of electric motors and other products in our team. It's my pleasure today to provide you an EU policy update on developments related to electric motors and sustainability requirements. I will share my screen. Voila. So I will start with a policy context, a general policy context before zooming on electric motors and variable speed drives. Then I will say a few words on other products, and then I will speak about the next steps. Regarding the policy context, it is very clear now in the current context that the need for action to reduce energy use is greater than ever. Of course, we all know about the main reason why we are speaking about this subject. There is the concern of climate change and the Green Deal that has been adopted by the EU Commission in December 2019, with a very important ambition for the EU to be carbon neutral by 2050. We also have the importance of our economy to be more circular, and the Circular Economy Action Plan that has been adopted in 2020. More recently, we had the Fit for 55 package with intermediate ambitions for 2030 with 55% reduction of CO2 emissions and additional energy savings that have been decided in the recast of the Energy Efficiency Directive. And more recently, of course, the war in Ukraine and EU security and energy prices have become a big concern. And in this context, very recently, in 18 May 2022, the Commission has adopted its Repower EU plan, which is a plan to rapidly reduce dependence on Russian fossil fuels and fast forward the green transition. And of course, in this context, energy efficiency and energy savings and eco-design in particular remain very important policy tools. Also, with respect to eco-design and energy labeling, the Commission has recently adopted two important documents, which are the eco-design and energy labeling working plan for the next years, 2022-2023. Sorry, 2022-2023, yes, and a proposal for a new eco-design for sustainable products regulation. And I will say a few words about these two elements now. Regarding the working plan that has been adopted recently, the plan starts by providing a current status and shows that we have currently under eco-design and energy labeling about 50 legal acts covering 31 products, representing about 50% of EU consumptions. And these documents need to be regularly updated. The impact of this policy instrument is estimated in 2020 as 10% if cut in EU primary energy use and greenhouse gas emissions for the products in scope. And this impact is growing because as we are removing the least efficient products from the market, we are replacing them by more efficient product, and the impact is growing year by year. And this results in 60 billion euro savings per year in consumer expenditure, which represents about 210 euro per household per year. And this is based on the pre-2021 energy prices. So I think you could easily double these figures today. Looking back at the previous plan, we note some great achievements, but the work is far from completed because 40% of the items of the previous plan have been rolled over to the new plan. And there is a sentence that in the plan that clarifies a bit why it happened, saying that a key lesson learned is that harvesting the full benefits of this policy area will require a better match between ambition and resources for both policy implementation at EU level and when it comes to member states' efforts in market surveillance. So of course, we'll try to pay attention to these elements in the future. The new plan contains 38 reviews that are due by end 2024, including motors and VSDs, and the ongoing reviews for the FAMs, pumps, and ventilation unit regulations, etc. Many others. There are also some new products to investigate, and also horizontally, there is a focus on more contributions to the circular economy, to market surveillance, international collaboration, standardization, etc. Now, when it comes to circular economy, what are the latest trends? And this is based on the working plan. How do we see the near future? Of course, in general, the focus of eco-design was on energy efficiency and reducing energy consumption. But progressively, other aspects have been integrated in the regulation with respect to durability, available spare part, repairability, and end-of-life information, for example. And before the new eco-design regulation for sustainable products enters into force, the one that I will present later, new product-specific requirements on material efficiency aspects can and will be explored. At the Commission request, Senelec has finalized a series of horizontal standards on material efficiency covering different aspects like durability, recyclability, ability to repair, etc. And these standards can be the basis for developing product-specific material efficiency standards for energy-related products. Based on one of these standards, on repair, reuse, and upgrade, the Commission Joint Research Center has developed a repair score system, and we are exploring now to introduce this scoring system for certain products. For example, now for the ongoing work on a regulation on smartphones and tablets. So we are working on that. Also worth to mention that the methodology of eco-design for energy-related product, the so-called MERP, is for the moment being reviewed to introduce a more systematic way to cover these circular economy aspects when we perform our studies. And finally, in upcoming studies, we will continue to work, increase consideration of circular economy aspects, and new aspects like recycled content, durability, firmware and software update, environmental relevant and critical raw materials will be further explored. So this is how we see, let's say, how circular economy durability aspects will influence our work for the next 2-3 years. And another very important development is this famous proposal for a new eco-design for sustainable products regulation, the so-called ESPR. This regulation will replace the current eco-design directive that is aiming only at energy-related products, and it will enable to setting the performance and information requirements for almost all categories of physical goods. So it's an instrument to make all possible goods that are placed on the EU market more sustainable. And it will cover a very wide range of requirements, broader than those that we have under eco-design today. Of course, like product durability, reusability, etc. Could be the presence of substances that inhibit circularity. Energy use and resource efficiency will, of course, remain very important. We will also look at recycled content, carbon and environmental footprints, and also very specifically, there is the intention, the idea to use a digital product passport to convey information requirements. We will also use this opportunity to improve the current eco-design framework on several aspects, for example, reinforce the market surveillance provisions. There will be transitional measures for the regulations that have been adopted under the current framework to make sure they can continue to deliver. And we are just at the beginning of a process of negotiation with the Council and the Parliament to achieve an adoption, but it's a long process that will take probably several years. Now, a few words about electric motors and variable speed drive. As you probably all know, we have a new regulation that have been adopted in October 2019, and that replaces the former regulations 640/2009. The new regulation entered into application in July last year. It has been already modified by a so-called omnibus regulation in the beginning of last year. This omnibus applies also since July last year, and it's mainly some technical fixes, some small mistakes, some more things that were not fully clear that we have improved. And it's important to look at the consolidation versions if you want to have let's say an overview of a full overview of the legal text. So I've put the address there. And also maybe worth to mention that there is a technical corrigendum of the German language version, because there were some issues with the way the term electric grid has been translated in that version. So that's ongoing. That's going to be published I think in a couple of months, something like that. So what are the main highlights? We have, of course, upgraded the requirements. We have enlarged the scope. So for the electric motors, the scope of the previous regulation, we have changed the requirements, which were that either the I3 level should be reached or reaching the I2 level plus variable speed drive. Now all motors in that range should have reached the IA3 level. We have expanded the scope toward the smaller motors with the IA2 class, or toward largest motor until 1000 kilowatts with the IA3 class. We have included 8-pole motors and 68 motors. There are also some specific exclusions that have been revised or added. And also that's new, we regulate now the variable speed drives, those that are with 3 phases input in the range 0.12 to 1000 kilowatts, and all variable speed drive placed on the market must have the I2 level. There is another tier that will apply as of July 2023 for single-phase motors and AXEB increased safety motors that are not currently covered, and they will the IA2 level will be required. And for large 3-phase motor between 75 and 200 kilowatts with 2, 4, or 6 poles, the IA4 level will be required. And I think that's unique in the world. The EU is the first to require some motor level to be at the IA4 level. And this will bring some large benefit. They are estimated to be about 10 terawatt hours by 2030, sorry, on top of the benefits of the previous regulation, which were more significant. Also reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 3.2 megatons CO2 equivalent per year. And also very important savings for end users, about 1.3 billion per year at 2018 prices. So again, to be multiplied by a factor probably of 2 or something like that. And also very important to mention, there are different information requirements in addition to the efficiency requirements, but I wanted to highlight information requirements on performance at part load or part speed. The information requirements will have to be provided both for variable speed drives and for electric motors from July 2022, with 7 points for VSDs and 7 points for motors. And this is important because it enables the calculation and the optimization of motor systems efficiency at different load and speed. And that's something looking forward in the future. not looking only at the components, but also looking how we can improve systems efficiency. And we are trying also to implement similar things in the upcoming reviews of the pumps regulation, of the fans regulations. We are trying to also to look into that direction. That's very important. Now, a few words on these other products. For industrial fans above 125 watts, the revision of the 2009 regulation is ongoing. We had some recent activity with a consultation forum taking place in April this year, and now we are preparing the inter-service consultation, and we are looking for an adoption in the second half of next year. For water pumps, there is also review ongoing. We had a call for evidence published in the beginning of the year, and we are now finalized the impact assessment, which have been submitted to the regulatory scrutiny board, which has to give an opinion that will be either positive or negative. We are hoping for a positive opinion, and we'll get the news very soon. If that's positive, the possible adoption would be in second quarter 2023. If that is negative, we'll have to rework our impact assessment and probably some delays, but we have good hopes. Finally, for glandless circulating pumps, there is also review ongoing, but it is paused for the moment because it has received a lower priority. We want first to make more progress on fans and water pumps before continuing our impact assessment. Now, what are the next steps? Well, on our table, mainly it will be already the review of the current regulation, the newer regulation. Article 9 specifies the conditions of this review, and it says that a draft revision proposal should be presented to the consultation forum by 14 November 2023. That's already pretty close. And in this review, we will have to address several elements. And the first element is resource efficiency requirements, including identifications of rare earth in permanent magnet motors. We know that motors in scope are induction motors, so there is no permanent magnets, but maybe there could be a horizontal requirement to identify rare earth in permanent motors, covering other types of motors. We should also look at the level of verification tolerances, looking at setting stricter requirements for motor variable speed drive, if appropriate. Looking also for motors above 1000 volts. Also, perhaps interestingly, requirements for combination of motors and drives placed on the market together and integrated variable speed drives, so the compact drives. Looking at the exemptions, are they suitable? Can we reduce them, or do we need others? And finally, possibly adding other types of motors to the scope, including permanent motors. So it's a big, ambitious agenda. Probably also we would look at other aspects. For example, we think it could be relevant to include information requirements on efficiency in the so-called field weakening zone, when motors work on more than 100% speed, because there are some possible efficiency gains when the motor is working in that area. So I think information about that would be useful for system optimization and system design. For variable speed drive, we would be very interested to address the system losses directly associated with the drive, in particular loss induced upstream in the grid when the input current is not sinusoidal, and also the harmonic losses induced in the motor. I think this would be very, very interesting work. Now, since the review is due end of next year, and we are not going to start this year, probably there will be some delays. We want to start when our resources allow for it, and now the priority is to finalize the water pumps and the fans review. So we will start the review, let's say, when we will have the resources to follow up. So that was it. Thank you for your attention. I'm sorry I cannot answer your questions live, but don't hesitate to send me an email if you have questions, and I will try to answer upon my return. Thank you very much.